Welcome to Coffee with T, and I'm T. Boy. I'm just here, and I'm very excited for my guest that I have today. You guys know today is Monday, which is Man Combo Monday, where we speak to a man who comes and shares his experience, his expertise on a topic, and his truth. And some may be his opinion, and some may be from his educational background or from being around certain men. So today I'm very excited. We're gonna give everybody a couple of seconds to come in while I read his bio, but I am super duper excited. And so are a whole bunch of other people, because you guys have inboxed me about this man and be like, I've been following him. I love him. I can't believe he's gonna be on. Well, guess what? He's here this morning, and I'm about to get this whole thing started, and we got a wonderful topic. So today I'd like to welcome Mr. David Burrus, author, success coach, speaker. With over a decade of ministry behind him, David A. Burrus is today a leading voice in proclaiming the gospel of grace around the world through his teaching, resources, seminars, workshops, and conferences. A highly sought after conference speaker, David has impacted church leaders and laity by preaching the kingdom message with practicality, transparency, and authority. His humorous, relevant, and engaging message have offered him the opportunity to serve as a guest speaker for ministries, organizations, locally and globally. As founding pastor of the Hope Church in Hewitt, Texas, David has served in many capacities of church ministry. He announced his ministerial calling at the age of 9 years old and delivered his first message in 1998. He has since served as a worship leader, youth pastor, assistant pastor, and senior pastor. It is through his 16 years of ministry that David has developed his own voice and style for presenting the gospel. David has added best-selling author to his list of accomplishments, as he is the author of The Blueprint, Discovering God's Intent for Relationships, The Kingdom-Driven Entrepreneur's Guide to Extraordinary Leadership, and The Pursuit of Purpose. When asked what fuels his passion, David explains, I have a passion for helping people identify their intellectual genius and for seeing the light come on when they discover a new dimension of themselves that they've never known existed. David is a sought-after speaker that has taken his message on healthy relationships, leadership, personal development, and kingdom principles to a wide spectrum of audiences. He is the founder and CEO of David Burrus Enterprises, which houses companies and the Passion Summit, companies such as the Passion Summit Relationship Institute, the Kingdom Leadership Academy, and David A. Burrus Ministries. David is also a board member and active participant of the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur LLC, a Christian-based organization designed to equip Christian leaders to impact the marketplace through entrepreneurship. Welcome, David. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey, listen, that long bio.
I had to read all of it. I had to. I was shorten it.
See, you have to read the bio, fam.
No, I needed to. Because when I looked at it, I said, I'm reading this. People need to know this man's credentials.
That thing was so churchy and long. We're going
to... Listen here.
What's
People
up?
need to know where the information is coming from. I'm big on when I'm actually listening to somebody, like, where did you get that from?
I got you.
So when I'm listening, I'm like, biblical, that's a solid rock foundation because the word of God don't change. So I need to know where it's coming from. So I'm good with it. So
got you.
I'll start this thing off because I got a lot of questions and I only got 30 minutes, or we may go 35, something like that. And I got to thank David so much because he is 3 hours behind us Jersey people. So he is like, wait a minute. So again, if you just tuned in, you're tuned into hashtag Coffee with T. And today is my series Men Hurt Too, a conversation about men from men. And we're excited to be here. And I have Mr. David Burrus with me, and we're about to get this thing started. So the first thing I always do when I have the brothers come in, I like to know a little bit about your blueprint, your foundation. So can you talk a little bit about how you were raised, your mom and your dad?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, raised in a single parent home, as many of my other brothers who I'm sure even have been, with you, have raised single parent, raised by a really amazing, classy Black woman who taught me many things. I am very domestic, but I cannot fix a car, right? So I can cook you a great meal, design your house, put some clothes on you, but don't ask me to fix anything, right? So there's this weird dynamic but she also raised me to be a manly man. So you got this manly man who doesn't know how to fix anything, but can do all the things that most manly men don't do. So it's a
Woo!
weird, listen, see, it's a weird situation. Very
Woo!
weird. Yeah. So I don't like sports. I
Whoa!
watch HGTV, right? Um, it's weird. My wife, she'll change my HGTV to the game. So it's a weird dynamic. But you know, it works out. So that's who I am today. I'm raising two sons who are getting the best of both worlds. There are a lot of things I did not learn. So I've had to learn them to teach them. But then they have this whole other, but they're also in the kitchen with me, cooking with me. So it's a beautiful marriage. I'm still figuring it out.
I'm sorry, I'm taking notes. I had to learn to teach them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
I had to, there were some things I probably could have made it out of life without learning, but because I have two sons, two black men, I've had to learn some things, and I'm still learning as we speak. One of my sons, my oldest son, he is 16 now. Most evenings we just take a walk for about 45 minutes, and I just pour into him, but it was a challenge for me. So because I didn't know how to be I'm just talking. We good, T?
No, please. This is what we
Okay.
need.
Because I wasn't raised, because I didn't know what a husband or father looked like, I didn't know what to do. So I set my alarm on Mondays to do what's called Manhood Mondays, where I would just go to my son's room and both of them and just kind of pour and invest in them. But I would always skip it, right? So my alarm would go off on Manhood Mondays and I would just skip it. I wouldn't do it. And what I realized was because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do, right? So I didn't know when I got in the room with these two young men what to say to them. That was a fear. And so I had to overcome that fear. And so now my oldest son and I, we just walk in the evening for about 45 minutes and I just pour into him. I just ask him, you know, how he's feeling. I just invest in him. And my youngest son, we have a very different relationship. So it's a beautiful thing for me to have to learn these things to teach them. Sometimes I have to act like I already know them, but nonetheless, they get the lessons.
That's so good, man. See, because once we know a man, like your wife knows these things.
Sure.
A lot of men don't open up about the fact that I don't know how to be a man. My mother made me more domestic than manly and game. So women, we're like in a house with a man and we're trying to figure this out. We think it's about us. It's not about us. So it's nice to hear these things so that other men can hear you say this and other women can hear and say, aha.
Sure.
That's what's going on in my house. So our topic today, and I couldn't have picked a better person to talk about this because I watch you and I've heard you talk about this. I said, I need to talk to David because this can't be true. So are all black men or the majority, we're not going to say all ever, or are the majority of black men narcissists? So I'm going to read the definition of a narcissist in case people don't really understand. Yep. A person who has an excessive interest or admiration of themselves. Narcissistic personality disorder involves a pattern of self-centered, arrogant thinking and behavior, a lack of empathy and consideration for other people, an excessive need for admiration. Others often describe people with narcissistic personality disorder as cocky, manipulative, selfish, patronizing, and demanding. So please, are the majority of black men narcissistic? Because I hear from women all the time that I'm coaching or in groups of women where we're having conversations where there's a breakup. He was a narcissist. Like almost every woman, including myself, I've been in a barrel. So are we just using a word that makes us comfortable because he didn't want us anymore? Or all black men narcissists?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that word has really been a catchphrase as of late for anybody who doesn't want to be with you, right? The reality is that there are a lot of I'm meeting more now that I know what a narcissist is. I'm meeting more and more black men who are narcissists than ever. But the reality is that not all black men are narcissists. I mean, you just can't. Not all of anything is anything.
Oh.
Right. So not all black men are narcissists. I think that what we're dealing with, and so I'm gonna throw a couple things out there that speak. So you've identified narcissism. We're going to put a microscope on it and look at it a little bit closer so we can identify kind of some things. And I want to give you a different perspective on what you may be viewing as narcissism. So it is a grandiose sense of self-importance. So grandiosity is the defining characteristic of narcissism. another kind of defining trait of narcissism, the whole grandiose thing, but also narcissism lives in a fantasy world that supports their delusions of grandeur. So everything is a fantasy with them, and everything about them supports their delusion. Narcissists need constant praise and admiration.
Mm.
All right. So you've always got to be building them up. They have a sense of entitlement because they consider themselves special. Narcissists expect favorable treatment as their due. Narcissists exploit others without guilt or shame.
Oh.
Right. And finally, and there's so many others, but I'll just stop here. Frequently demeaning, intimidating, bullies, and belittles others. So those are some key traits of narcissism. What I would point to is that if we're not careful, we're viewing insecurity as narcissism.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So a lot of guys aren't narcissists. What it is they don't know who they are.
Whoa.
And so they're having to create this character so that they can survive in their own mind.
Oh.
Does that make sense? If I don't create the character, then number one, I've got to do whatever it takes to feel good about myself, or else I'll kill myself, right? And even if I don't kill myself literally, I will kill myself emotionally and even spiritually. And so some of what we are viewing as narcissism is really men who do not feel good about themselves. And so they have to create this character to live in so that they don't create a character to die in, if that makes sense. So, but some of them are narcissists. So we have to know the difference. A lot of that is, and so we as men have to be responsible with our own emotions, because we have not been taught how to deal with the stuff that we deal with emotionally. We build these characters and we stand behind these walls, not really fully understanding how to come out and really express that, listen, I'm hurting. And I'm dealing with some stuff that I don't know how to articulate, and I need your help to articulate that.
Woo, wait, you could just drop the mic right now, because so many people just read. Like you said, viewing insecurities as narcissism. See, there's a lot of insecure men, and they've been taught to suppress their insecurities and act like they are confident when they're on the inside crying from little boys. And we talked on the back end a little bit, and I said, I have a 25-year-old son who there are certain things that I've taught him that if a person didn't live in the house with us, may think that he's a narcissist. Sure. Because he has this sense of entitlement because I spoiled him as a single mother. I mean, I did the best that I could do. And there's some things that I taught him about himself. There's some things that I saw that he saw me do, which is we live in a world of selfies, which is probably one of the most narcissistic traits ever. And you could talk about that too. Because I'm this, we getting our angles to make sure people see this false perception of who we are. Because even me, how many times do you have to take a selfie to get a good picture?
That's right.
Putting the first one that you took. So my son, I don't think is a narcissist, but how effective or how much do we as mothers affect our son's behaviors that's coming off as narcissism? Yeah.
I think let me give you this analogy. See, so when your son took his first steps,
right,
you were the one who cheered him on.
Yes.
Right. Do you play sports?
No, he plays music.
Okay, so when he had his first concert, you were the one who cheered him on. When he graduated high school, you were the loudest one in the stands.
Yes.
When he got his first job, you celebrated him the most. Right? We got his driver's license. You were the loudest one celebrating.
Yes.
And then you turned him over to some woman who has not been raised to celebrate a man.
Oh.
Right? And so now here we are. Here's a man who his mother has raised him to be celebrated by a woman. And now you turn him over to another woman who says, no, sir, you have to earn my respect.
Wow.
You have to earn my celebration. And so now he doesn't know how to deal with that because I'm used to every little thing I get celebrated for. So now he has this puffed up sense of entitlement where you owe me a celebration. And so now there's this balance that has to take place. So I think mothers play a large role in how men view themselves and even some of the entitlement.
Right.
Even, I've been married 17 years. When I got married, listen, my mother, so what do you mean you're not going to bring me the plate? You're just going to cook it? You're not
Right,
gonna,
right.
You're not going to bring it to me? What do you mean? So you don't fold clothes this way? You fold them this way? I like my clothes folded this way. So there's this whole sense of, no, this is how things are done right. And what I had to learn personally was, sir, just because you had it that way doesn't mean it's right. And so for the men who are watching this, I want us to hear and understand that, sir, just because you had it that way doesn't mean it's right. And if you really get a good woman, she'll teach you some ways that you didn't know. And if you're really open to her, she will show you some things that you didn't even understand you needed.
Right.
Right.
So if a dad or a parent was in the house and we're looking at the traits of a narcissist.
Yeah.
Now, if a dad or a parent, mother, whoever was in the house, and I say dad because I hope some dads were in the house, was self-centered, and these are some of the traits, had arrogant thinking and behavior, a lack of empathy and consideration for others, an excessive need for admiration,
yep.
was cocky, manipulative, and selfish, and patronizing and demanding, the men who are going around who are being pegged narcissists just actually emulating their mother or father's behavior?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're raised to see us. I can point to probably 2 or 3 narcissists right now who are actually narcissists, who I can point to their father and say, you got that from your father. Like, you watched him do that. And so now you believe that's the way men are to be treated. And so absolutely, we learn that stuff from our fathers. But we can unlearn it.
Well, I was about to ask you that. Can this behavior be, and do men, because we talk about the men behind their backs. Sorry, yeah. Men, women, we get together, we call you a narcissist.
Sure.
Should we be telling the man, like, because we tell each other, when we start talking, look up the definition of narcissist, girl, because you got narcissists in your house. Should we be telling men, like, this is what a narcissist is, and this is what it seems like you are to me? Or because we don't want to put him on a defense, but how do we have this conversation and turn this behavior around?
If you're my woman, you have a right to hold me accountable to my own actions. You have, in fact, if you do not, you're not my woman. I need you to challenge me. Yeah. There's some things that I won't see. There's some things that I won't observe about myself. And so I need you to love me to the point of, even when it makes you uncomfortable, challenging me to be a better man. If you're not doing that, then you are really aiding my behavior. Having said that, it's important for men to know that leadership is servitude. You cannot be a great leader if you're not first a great servant. And so the way out of narcissism is to become a great leader, because leadership is rooted. The substratum of leadership is servitude. I cannot be a great leader if I'm not a great servant. So the way I back out of narcissism is to realize I really have to be second first. It's got to be about you first, then me. When I make it about you first, then me, as a leader, then it becomes so easy for me to back out of narcissism, because I can't put me in the forefront.
Wow. Listen, if you just tuned in, you're tuned in to hashtag Coffee with Tea. I'm here with Minister David Burrus, who is telling us and trying to teach us some things from his education, his experience, and his life right now, and his home with his wife and his children. And I love to have the men on Mondays, because they get to share their truth, and there's no judgment. And we're talking about narcissistic behavior right now. And are all Black men narcissists, or is this word trending? Because, we get real trendy with words.
Of course.
It's easy to use it. So I'm sure men understand and feel others' pain, because we know one of the traits of narcissism is lack of empathy. Sure. So I'm sure men understand and feel others' pain, but they've been taught to mask their own pain and not acknowledge that they're hurting. So how are they supposed to show grief or sadness or other emotions for another person? Yeah,
it's impossible. It is practically impossible. If I don't love, I can only love you to the degree that I love myself. I can only emote to you to the degree that I'm willing to be honest with myself. So I can't expect you to receive what I don't even know how to give myself. So I've got to have a conversation. I've got to start talking to me and start letting me know, I'm not okay. And it's okay for me to say I'm not okay to me. When I become honest about how I feel with myself, it becomes easy for me to help you understand me, and for me to express how I feel toward you. But if I'm still fighting the conversation with me, I can't even get it to you. And here's the other thing too. I don't, here's a challenge. I don't want to admit that let me see how I can word this. I think me keeping it to myself I assume it's me hiding it from you. When
Right.
all actuality, you see it too.
Woo!
Right? Here's what it looks like. It looks like if I walked into a room, if I left the house with a white t-shirt on, I'm gonna give you an analogy. And I walked into a room and I'm bleeding and this t-shirt becomes red. Everybody else will say, Dave, that is a beautiful red t-shirt. But T knows that's a white t-shirt with blood on it.
Right.
Right. And so what I want to do is pretend that what everybody else is saying is true, that this is a beautiful red t-shirt. When I know, we both know I'm bleeding.
Right.
But I won't admit it to you. And so I'll make you believe this is a red t-shirt. No, T, this is a red t-shirt. I bought this red. No, sir, that's
right.
white. You're bleeding. But until you can be honest with me about your blood, I can't help you.
Ooh-wee. Are Black men avoiding healing, which is making them look like narcissists?
Yeah, we are, because healing, you cannot heal without being exposed. And Black men are the biggest fronters in the world. We want you to believe we got it going on, when in all actuality, underneath the Band-Aid, underneath the bandage, underneath the shirt is a man who's bleeding and doesn't know how to stop the hemorrhaging. So until we can be honest about the fact that we're bleeding, we're going to bleed out. And that's what you're seeing. A lot of men who are bleeding out, they're literally dying because they're bleeding.
Wow.
Emotionally, spiritually, physically, we're dying because we're bleeding. We don't know how to admit that we're bleeding.
Wow. I always say that, and I wrote an article. I never submitted it anywhere, but I always write stuff about Black men. Because I have 3 sons. I have a 25-year-old, a 20-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And I've watched them, and I feel like I'm not a man, but I've raised a man, so I felt like I grew up with them, kind of, sort of.
Sure.
I watched them implode, never exploding on me because I'm mom and they love me, but I could see them imploding, and I'm like, there's something wrong here, and I don't know what to do for them.
Yeah.
So how do we as a society, and how do we as women, and I'm not just talking about in intimate relationships, I'm talking about mothers and aunties and best female friends. How do we help men stop imploding? Because a lot of them are just on the inside, there's this pressure cooker and it's just waiting to explode. What can we do to make that instead of boom?
Couple things I'm going to put on the table. The first thing is I really do speak in a lot of analogies and parables because they help me understand it better. One of the things that I've learned to do, even with my own son, is instead of talking to him like this, as you and I are facing each other right now, I would literally sit on the side of him, and so that we can both be looking at the same thing.
Wow.
Right. So that's really just an analogy of how sometimes we have to approach our conversations with our sons. Instead of the face-to-face, sometimes we need to sit next to him and say, let me see things from your perspective.
Oh.
And let me minister healing based on what you're seeing, not what I'm seeing, if that makes sense. Because when I'm looking at you face to face, I only know what I see in you. And it's a challenge at times for me to see what you see, or for you to see what I see in you. So I have to sit next to you because I want to see life from your perspective. That way I can minister healing. The other thing too, T, I will put on the table is that for men, especially Black men, no matter how old we are, we are very much achievement driven. And you'll hear me talk about this all the time. We really love achievement. If we don't do things that we don't know we can win at, which is one of the reasons why we don't communicate as effectively as you do. And so we don't talk because you're better talkers than us. Right. And so if we feel like we can't win, we will be silent because we don't do things we don't win at. So what we have to do as mothers, as wives, as sisters, is we have to create a platform. And I don't want you to think that everything has to be catered to the man. I'm just giving you some tools for better understanding how to communicate with men. If you really want to get to a man's heart and you want him to communicate effectively, we have to make the playing field level. Right. So, for example, if you say, sir, if there's a very hard conversation you want to have with a man, if you spark that conversation up on him without giving him warning, he will shut down, or he will give you what you want to hear. And that's not what you want. You want the truth. So for us, we like to know in advance. Hey, listen, because I'm not really skilled in this whole conversation piece, communication piece. Let me know in advance what you want to talk about. So you may say, Dave, Tuesday night at 6 p.m., I want to have a conversation about why I feel like you are so demeaning toward me. And I just want you to think about that. You may not feel like you're demeaning toward me, but it feels like you are. So Tuesday night at 6, listen, I just want 20 minutes of your time. I want to have that conversation, but I want you to be ready to tell me what's going on with you for you to make me talk like this. So now you've given that man time to really process and think. You're not sparking that conversation on him, and you're now holding him accountable. At 6 p.m., sir, I told you in advance, so we're going to have this conversation. Right. So there's a couple of things that kind of look at.
Thank you, because we need to know as women, like I said, even with the sons in the house, what advice or what tips would you give to mothers who are raising sons that are right now, in their preteens and teens, before we get to this point of producing what looks like a narcissist? What should we be doing in the home? I mean, I have an 11-year-old who's on the autism spectrum, so it's a little different. But I have my 20-year-old still in the home with me, and my 25-year-old lives on his own. What advice would you have given me along the way as a single Black mother to do this and don't do that?
What I would do is remind them, even for you're 22, you said 20 and 22, correct?
He's 20, the 20-year-old is in the house with me.
20-year-old, 11-year-old?
Yep.
And 22.
And 25.
25. So even at 25 years old, what I've had to learn how to do with my own son is let him know it's okay to not know what you're doing. One of the challenges as Black men is we feel like we have to know what we're doing. And when we don't, we lose it. And in many cases, we don't do anything. So let them know it's okay to not know what you're doing. And it's even okay to not know where you're going at this point, right? But what is not okay is for you to not let me help you get to where you need to be. Whoa. So, and even for your younger son, just let them know, man, listen, it's okay to not know what you're doing. What's not okay is for you to not do anything. And it's not okay for you to not let me help you. I am here to help you. And really pointing them in some direction. So now even me, I have to look at my sons, two different dispositions. My youngest son is highly motivated. When I say highly, I mean highly. He can tell you where he's going to be 20, 30 years from now. My oldest son, not so much. And so I have to now look at both of them. Number one, and not love them. I have to love them separately. But number two, I've got to point them in the direction where I see them. Which means, T, I cannot be so frustrated with this one that I pour all my attention into this one.
Uh-oh. Yep.
And I can't be so excited with this one that I abandon this one. So I've got to now have this whole balance where I see you too, sir. And I'm as frustrated as I am, I'm going to point you into a direction as well. The Bible puts it this way, and I'm not going to quote too much scripture, but it talks about how children are arrows in the hand of in our hand. And so we literally point them into directions. We have a responsibility to pull them back and release them. So I can't release you because you know where you're going and not release you. If you don't know where you're going, I have a responsibility now to point and direct you to where you need to be. Oh. Whereas to you, I may not have to point you, I just release you. Right. But I've got to know each one individually to love you according to knowledge. So I've got to know who you are and study who you are so I can point you to where you need to go, but I cannot abandon you just because you don't know where you're going.
Oh my goodness. Listen, and I'm putting this out there because listen, that's what we do. I'm very transparent. My oldest son and his father, they're having this issue right now because his father doesn't think that he is where he needs to be.
Sure.
And I keep having these conversations with these two, but you just really, really help me because my 25-year-old son is very indecisive and my 20-year-old is he knows what he wants to do. He's still got some growing and stuff to do, but I worry less about him when he's younger.
Of course.
And then I had to learn too their personalities because I'm very hard. Well, I used to be. I'm a little softer now. Like I used to be like a girl. And with my oldest son, and I want the women to understand this, even with their spouses or their mates. With my oldest son, I was able to be, and he could take it. But my middle son is very sensitive.
Sure.
And he would get his feelings hurt. And to this day, still, I'm having a hard time communicating with him because my tone And after I say it, I'm looking at his face and I'm just like, you gotta toughen up. So what can I do, and what can other parents do when we have these very drastic personality differences? How do we get that balance?
I think that, so I have the same situation here. My oldest son very quiet, leave me alone, sir. Right, just leave me alone. A little more tough. My youngest son, a little more sensitive. And so again, we both have to know, you have to know who each is. And so for you and we have to be pliable enough to shift according to the room, which is not always easy.
It's not.
I can literally be in one room and have to be this guy, and 10 feet down the hallway have to become somebody else. But that matures us when we are pliable like that. It really makes us great leaders.
Right.
With that youngest guy, what I would say with that youngest guy is what we don't want to do is suppress that emotion.
Right.
I'm going to say this, and I hope it doesn't come. He's going to be okay. I used to be afraid that my youngest son was not going to be okay.
Right.
Like he was going to be too soft.
Right.
Too soft.
Right.
What I found out is he's not going to be too soft. He's going to be who he is. And I'm going to let him be that. But what I also had to do, T, was, and this, we just brother-sister talk now. I had to check in with him to see, okay, you got any girlfriends?
Right.
Right. Who's your girlfriend? I had to just kind of check in to see where he was, because there was the soft, but I wanted to make sure that I still infuse that manhood in him as well.
Right.
So it's that checking. It's letting him be who he is, but also checking in, okay, you know, you got a little girlfriend, who you like, just to find out, you know, kind of, who he is. So there's a balance. The other guy, not so much. I went through his phone and found out, you're okay. You're going to be okay. Right. So.
I totally got it. Like, listen, if you just tuned in, you're tuned in to #Coffee with T, and I'm here with Minister David Burrus, and we are having real conversation about narcissistic behavior versus how a person was raised, because a lot of it has to do with the person's blueprint. And I think that a lot of men need a reboot. Yeah. What a man is.
Yep.
How do we get them to embrace that it's okay to do a reboot? Because women, you know, we all over the world working on ourselves. Oh, we at this conference and we at this retreat and we doing this and we doing that. And some of us ain't, we just at conferences wasting our time. And I say this all the time. I don't care who don't like me or who don't love me, because y'all over here with all these notes and stuff, y'all ain't applying it as women, but we ain't talk about that right now. At least the men are honest about, I'm not getting help. I'd rather have an enemy that I know than a friend that's stabbing me in the back. Yep. So how do we get the men to understand that it's okay to reboot? Because I try, because I don't want anybody to feel attacked. Like, you got to stop doing this. You know what I'm saying? As narcissistic behavior goes, you got to stop. You got to have empathy. How do we have these conversations and change the language for what a man can accept? Because like I said, we're dealing with men who were sensitive with their mother in the house, but are arrogant with us.
Yep.
You real sensitive at home with your mom, and when I see you interacting with her, you go to this place. But I'm looking at you and you in the house doing the most. How do we have those conversations and help him reboot to, that's not normal? Yeah.
So I'm going to say something to you, and I'm not challenging you, but I'm going to put something on the table to help you.
Yes.
I heard you say twice, how do we get him to alleviate the frustration that you may feel? You have to change even that narrative. You can't get him to do anything. Right. And I hear it all the time. How do I get my husband to? You cannot. He has to come to that himself. Oh. So that you don't become frustrated, you can't get him to do anything. He has to want it himself. Here's what men do, and I'm gonna give you a secret about men. This is a mystery about men. Men want to feel like this is so bad and it's a mystery and it could almost be manipulative, but I'm going to share it with you. Men want to feel like their change was their idea, right? They don't want change for you. They want to change because it's their idea. Even to the most practical, I think you should wear that shirt, sir. He wants it to be his idea that he wore that shirt.
Right.
And so, right. So one of the ways we can get him to change is to point to, sir, this would make you better. And I want you to be better for you.
Right.
You're not doing this for me. I want you to be better for you. And so sometimes showing him who he could be on the other side of this change makes a huge difference. And so you're not doing it for me, and letting him know, listen, if I'm not in your life, I need you to be better for somebody else.
Oh,
I know that sounds crazy,
woo!
but I love you enough to want you to be better for whoever is in your life.
Oh,
I know that's a crazy thought. And the challenge should, oh man, I'm gonna show you how much time we got.
Get as much time as you need.
I'm gonna show you something real quick, okay? And this is for my married sisters who are married to men.
Yes.
All right. Now I'm gonna give you one scripture. T, I promised I wasn't gonna do this to myself, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway.
You're gonna do it today.
Proverbs chapter 31. In Proverbs 31, actually Proverbs 12:4. Let me read this to you, because I think this will really put some handles on it for some people, because I think a lot of women are challenged with the fact that, this guy, he won't change. In Proverbs 12:4, if you go look at it, and I got to find the right version.
Yep.
How much time we got, T?
Keep going.
But you didn't answer my question, sister.
We got 15 minutes.
Okay. Can we pause here just so I can find this for you?
Go ahead.
Okay.
We on live. We
Okay.
wait. We want to
Okay.
hear it. If you just tuned in, you're tuned in to #CoffeeWithT. I'm here with Minister David Burrus, and we are talking about narcissism versus how a person was raised. We're in a society right now, and I'm speaking for the women who are around me and the women that I coach who have breakups, because I coach women through the devastation of infidelity, and I help families fight through the devastation of infidelity. And so many women are coining the phrase that the man that they are with or the man that they were with are narcissists. So we're trying to break some myths, and there are some men who are narcissists. And Dr. Burrus gave us some clues on that at the beginning. And there are some men who are not. So we have to be really careful. I have to tell the women this. Stop letting your girlfriends tell you your man is a narcissist. Stop letting people come into your life and say that every Black man is a narcissist, because they're not. And I'm admittedly saying there's some traits that my son has based on the way that I raised him. A sense of entitlement, which is a big red flag with narcissists. He has a sense of entitlement because me and his dad gave him everything, and he never had to work for anything. So we have to be careful. So are you ready? Yep.
Let me show you something. Proverbs 12:4. This is for wives, but I think it speaks to women in general. Mm-hmm. Proverbs 12:4, the Passion Translation is this. It says, the integrity and strength of a virtuous wife transforms her husband into an honored king.
Whoa.
But the wife who disgraces her husband weakens the strength of his identity. All right, I'm gonna read it again. It says, the integrity and strength of a virtuous wife transforms her husband into an honored king. So there are some married women who are watching men not live up to their potential. And what we're reading here is that if she is walking in integrity and strength and virtue, she has a right to place a demand on the king in him. Period. And even more so, that not only does she have a right to place a demand on it, she has a right to call it forth. And it says that she transforms him from husband into honored king, which means that once your stamp is on his life, once who you are and how you call forth that king in him, once that occurs, he will never go back to just being a husband. He will always be an honored king. And so for you, even single mothers who are raising Black men, you are that man's wife right now. And if you're walking in virtue, if you're walking in integrity, if you're walking in strength, you have a right to call forth the king in him. Every man has two things in him, a king and a kid. Every one of us. And the kid in him wants to play more than the king in him wants to lead. And so you have a right to demand that the king in him lead and the kid in him sit down. Now, the kid in him can't go away because every king needs a place for the kid to play. However, the king needs to lead more than the kid is speaking. So know that every man has both in them, and you as a virtuous woman, as a strong woman, as a woman of integrity, you have a right to call forth the king in him and tell the kid in him to sit down. You have to challenge him. If you don't challenge him, nobody else will.
Whoa, y'all, I hope the wives and the girlfriends and the fiancés and the mamas and the aunties and the grandmamas got their pens out, because that right there should have set all of us free. So Amen. I want you to give us some final words, because I really want to honor your time, but we got to do this again for real. Like, we really got to do this again, because I got more questions about other stuff that came from, that's
sure.
far away from a narcissist.
Sure.
But what would you like for your final words to be to those who are listening right now?
Yeah, well, I would say to the women who are listening, I need you to understand that it is not your responsibility to change anybody. It's your responsibility to challenge him, but never to change him. And don't assume the responsibility when he doesn't change. You're not doing anything wrong. It's not your fault. That man has to come. Here's what you also need to know really quickly, that statistics show that most men do not reach full maturity until their mid-40s. So you have a lot of clowns who are now coming into manhood, a lot of kids who are now coming into kingship. So don't assume responsibility for that. It's not your responsibility to change him. You are to challenge him, and to keep living. And the last thing I would say is, don't put your life on hold trying to make somebody else pick up theirs. You keep living.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to ask you one more thing.
Sure.
What would you tell the men that are listening?
I would say, sir, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to admit you're not okay. You cannot move forward. You cannot grow. You cannot be who you are called to be if you're not willing to admit you're not okay. The other thing too, I would say is it's really time for us men to really challenge ourselves. Like we've got to push ourselves to greater. The third and final thing I would say to men is you need to be around other men who can hold you accountable. If you are the only one on the island, you're in trouble, sir. You need some men who can get in your business, some men who can call you, some men who you can call and say, hey man, listen, I feel like cheating on this woman. I need you to talk me off the wall. Or man, I feel like committing suicide. I need you to talk me off the wall. So we need men who can hold each other accountable.
I'm about to get up and start shouting, because I'm serious, because my mother always used to say, like, when I used to bring girls around, like my little friends, my mother used to be like, I don't like her. Like, and you know, our parents could see way before, but she's like, birds of a feather flock together. And I used to look at her like, Mom, please, like, chill, I got this. So just saying that, like, men think that women, we be tripping when we see their boy. And I always say this to women, listen, look at who he's around. I'm sorry. I see married couples who hang with married couples, and then I see married men who hang with single men. Like, single men do single men stuff. Like, you can't be, no. But, and then men feel some kind of way. So I'm glad you said that. Brothers, you need to be around men who hold you accountable to a higher standard, who speak to the king in you again, and not the kid in you. Because like you said, they got the kid in them and they want to play. But when you have become a king, there's a certain level of responsibility. This conversation is so awesome. And I thank you again, because I know it's very early where you are.
We're good.
I appreciate the early morning rise for this cause. Please tell everybody where they can find you and what's coming up next for you.
Sure. So you can find me on all social media platforms, primarily Instagram and Facebook, at David Burrus Global. I have this amazing academy I just recently launched called the David Burrus Academy, where I'm equipping single men and women for marriage, and I'm equipping married men and women for success in marriage. So, and really I'm doing some business stuff as well. So if you are looking for a coach and you can afford $47 a month, you should reach out to me, because I'm here to push you to your next level and make sure that you do not fail at relationships again. So if you're interested in that, please follow me, inbox me and say, Dave, I would love for you to be my coach for $47 a month, and I can help you with that.
$47 a month? You just got a client.
Listen.
I'm ready for my husband. I ain't trying to do that. I've been married once. I'm trying for the next one till death do us part. And we got to understand that we need help. 47. Listen, I'm saying this to the women right now. Y'all better stop buying them pocketbooks and them shoes.
Listen.
That's going to depreciate in value, and go take that $47 a month and them eyelashes, them whatever, them mink eyelash. I don't do all that stuff. But I take some, and my coach is Dr. D.C. Marshall. A long time ago, I said,
listen.
Yes, that's my coach. And you already know.
That's my girl.
A long time ago, when I first met Dee, probably 6 years ago, I said, I really can't afford this. And she said, how much do you pay for coffee? And I said, I go to Dunkin' Donuts, she said, add that up. She said, what you need to do is go buy yourself a Keurig and make your coffee at home. And then you probably could afford some things that you need. What you need to do is understand what's depreciating and value. And I said, you know what? And then she said something on one of her things when I first heard her talking about coaching. I said, I ain't spending no money for no woman to tell me what to do. And she said at the end of it, she said, it ain't for me, it's for you, because I don't need your money. I got businesses.
Yeah.
I said, well, that is my lady right there. So I'm going to see you for my $47 a month. And I want all the women on here who are listening, and the men. We all need help. And sometimes we say we can't afford it. But I know every person on here listening, or the majority of people on here, can afford $47 a month for somebody of your caliber. So get it while it's good, because the prices don't stay the same. People elevate, and sometimes, people caught Oprah when she was here. Now you can't get Oprah. You're going to get her assistant.
Yeah.
Not even the first one. You're going through 5 assistants to get to the first assistant to get
Absolutely.
the Oprah. So please, people, go sign up. Thank you guys for tuning in. You're tuned in to hashtag Coffee with Tea. I'm here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Wednesday, we are going to have our Wonder Woman Wednesday with Lucinda Cross, who's going to talk about resilience and tell her story of how she went from prison to prosper. We talking about real jail. So I need y'all to tune in for that. And thank you. And remember what I tell you all at the end of all my broadcasts, you deserve the best. Yes, I'm talking to you. You deserve the best. Now go get it. Peace and blessings. And remember Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. I will see y'all Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Coffee with Tea. And that's me. Peace and blessings. I love you guys. Thank you, Mr. Burrus. You have been a wealth of knowledge. And I will see you soon. And we got to do it. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Bye.